Hey y'all, and welcome to Trials to Triumphs. I'm actually Blaine Featherson-Jenkins, but you can call me ABFJ. This week, life coach and 6-time New York Times bestselling author, Dr. Iyanla Vanzant, talks to me about healing work and living life in full bloom. The world knows Dr. Iyanla Vanzant as a masterful spiritual teacher and prolific author. But in our conversation, she reminded me that she's also always been a student. With all she's accomplished, Dr. Iyanla says she's still learning to embrace the full power of who she is.
I'm always so conscious and careful, mindful, if you will, not to get into the ego trip of I am Iyanla Vanzant. Hold the door for me, peel my grapes, whatever. I'm always so mindful not to get into that because it's really not about me. It's about the gift and the work that I've been entrusted with. But you can play that down too far, too. I can play that down too far.
Hi, Miss Iyanla. Welcome to the pod. How are you?
I am good. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Here's the thing. I am so excited because the ways in which you have inspired me in my life are just, I don't even have enough words. You are such a pillar to me of excellence, of honesty, of truth. And it truly is an absolute honor to be here and have a conversation with you today. Normally we start with how I met the guest. And I don't know if you remember, but we met in the airport in 2018. Yeah. You remember?
I didn't know what year it was. I remember we met in the airport.
Oh my gosh. I was so hoping you would remember. Yes. But we were there doing some press. I'm from the Washington, D.C. area, but I was there with a couple of castmates doing some press for Dear White People at the time. And we just happened be headed to the escalator at the same time. And we just had to stop you. You were so kind and so loving and really poured into us. And I just want to say thank you. Truly. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you for Dear White People. I loved it.
Oh, thank you. I know I miss it. Okay. So we're going to start with some icebreaker questions. Are you in?
Okay.
Okay. Mm-hmm. If your personality was a color, what color would it be?
Yellow.
Tell me why.
Bright, sunny, warm. Warm, I think would be the first thing, warm.
Yeah, you are warm. I like that. Do you have a word of the year? Do you start your year and kind of give it a word?
Every year I have a word.
Okay, what's been your word for this year?
Well, this year I had two words.
Okay.
Full bloom. Full bloom were my words for 2023.
Okay. And what got you there?
Recognizing that as big as I was still playing small. Yeah.
But okay, so tell me about the moment that it hit you, that you realized, okay, I'm playing small.
I don't know if it was one moment or if it was a collection of moments. And it kind of comes on the heel of, it always shocks me when I go somewhere and people know who I am. And, they get hysterical and I'm like, I'm just trying to get some lemons, people, please leave me alone. And they're falling out on the floor. They're having a fit. And I'm like, what is this? I haven't been on TV in 3 years. What is going on? And, just with reflection, contemplation, I kept hearing you still don't know who you are. You really don't know who you are. And you don't know your place in the world. And I said, okay, because I don't think of me like that. Yeah. I see me in the morning. I'm not impressed, but and when I sat thinking about it, it's like, okay, where are you not showing up as who you are in the world? Where I need to be showing up as, the elder, queen, wise woman, teacher, and I don't.
I love that you've discovered this and accepted this though, because when you said, I haven't been on TV in 3 years, I get that. I really get that. But I think what's most important, and I think what's very special about you, is that um, it's what people are left with after experiencing you. That lingers for a lifetime. There's moments that I've witnessed with you that will stay with me. You know what I mean? And that is a special power that I'm so happy that you are embracing in this season of your life and in this year of your life.
Yeah. The thing is, and this is what I understood. I'm always so conscious and careful, mindful, if you will, not to get into the ego trip of I am Iyanla Vanzant.
Mhm.
You know, hold the door for me, peel my grapes, whatever. I'm always so mindful not to get into that because it's really not about me. It's about the gift and the work that I've been entrusted with. But you can play that down too far, too. I can play that down too far. And I think that's what I've done. Um, and it's really more an internal thing than it is an external
Yeah.
thing. Um, where I was just, oh, I shouldn't do that, or I can't do that, and I'm like, yeah, you can, not
Mm.
only your age, but because of um, your worth and your value and what you've earned.
I love
And
that.
when did it happen? I'll tell you when it happened.
Yes. Okay.
I went to the nail salon. I go to the same nail salon. I've been going there for 20 years. And I usually go early in the morning because really it kind of disrupts people more than it disrupts me when they see me. And so I was in the nail salon and I had a noon appointment and everybody and their sister was in there. And this woman was sitting across from me and she kept looking at me. She kept looking at me and she didn't say anything. Uh, and then I guess when she was finished, she was leaving. She came back over. She got down on her knees in front of me, which was shocking. And then, and she was a white woman, a young white woman. And she said, you saved my life. She said, you saved my life.
Mm.
And the least I can do for you is to pay for your nails today.
Mm.
And I immediately said, oh, you don't have to do that. She said, oh, yes, I do. She
Oof.
said, yes, I do. I would love to leave my card here and pay for your nails for the rest of your life. And in my mind, I'm like, what is wrong with her?
For the
you
rest of your
know,
life?
that's what she said. She said, I would leave my card here and pay for your nails for the rest of my life.
Mm.
She said, because you just don't understand that I'm literally here on my knees. Now she's weeping. And she said, you literally don't understand that I am here on my knees breathing today because of something I heard you say. And I couldn't receive it. I was like still wanting to tell her, no, you don't have to do it. And then I heard, why are you playing so small? Yeah. You saved her life. Good.
Wow. Okay. I'm happy. I'm happy you shared the moment because the moment was a moment.
But again, it was the culmination of the many moments, and
Mhm.
that thing. Because I believe that if you don't get it, the universe will keep bringing it to you, good or
Yes.
bad. It will
Yes.
keep bringing it to you.
Ooh, that's good. That's good. Let's start at the beginning. You were born in the back of a taxi. Can you tell
Yeah,
us the story? And in addition to telling us the story, I believe that your entrance into the world means something. And so, what
oh,
do you think
absolutely.
now that you're an adult and have lived life that your interest into the world meant and why you came in the world
Well,
that way?
clearly that I would really always be moving. All
Mm.
It wasn't just that I was in the back of a taxi cab. I was under an elevated train. I was born in the cab under an elevated train because the hospital is located on a street where the elevated train, the Long Island Railroad, runs there.
Hmm.
And so I'd always be moving. I was born in the back of a taxi cab because I'm always ahead of my time. Always. I've seen it in my life. I've experienced it. I didn't get into the delivery room. I came in the taxi cab. Um, and I'm always ahead of my time. I remember when I first went to television and did what's called the Iyanla show. I remember what I wanted to do. They told me you can't do that. Nobody wants to sit around and listen to problems all day. You can't talk to people about that. And then Dr. Phil did it for 20 years, but he's a white man.
Mm.
I'm a woman of color and, immediately limited in what I could do. And so they wanted me to do fashion and food and that didn't work out. It did not turn out well for me.
Mm.
So I'm always ahead of my time. But what I lived through and had to live out of was because I was born in the cab, the blood, the whatever else was in there, the cab company sued my parents. And so I was a problem. I'm a problem. I grew
Wow.
up with that. Grew up hearing that. You've been a problem since the beginning. You're expensive. You cost me money before you could even walk.
Mm.
And the way that they experienced that thing about me being born in the cab and then being sued because they couldn't clean the cab. They couldn't get whatever it was
Yeah.
out of there. Look, it's trying to get here. Now, they didn't bother to say that the reason it took me so long to get to the hospital because my mother was drunk and didn't even
Mm.
know she wasn't safe. They didn't bother to mention that part.
Mm.
So it really the story that I had to live out of was far more difficult than the one I had to live into. I had to live into being ahead of my time. I had to live into being always being on the move, but I had to live out of you are a problem.
Wow. When do you first remember um hearing that, and how did it make you feel?
Well, no, I was young. They've always said it. They always said I don't know how old I was. I
Mm.
think that uh I didn't realize the problems it was creating to me until I was in my teens, maybe early 20s. And when I look at that as my script, that was my script. I'm a problem. I was a problem. I, tried to commit suicide at 13. I was pregnant at 16. I was married at 19. I was a mess. I was a hot A mess. Okay. Because I am a problem. But it
Mhm.
was subconscious. It was in my subconscious. So I didn't know that that is the script that I was living out. You're bad, you're wrong, you're a problem, you do everything wrong, you mess up all the time, those things. And it wasn't until I was in my like I said, late teens, early 20s, when a book literally fell on my head and hit me. A
Mm.
book entitled This Thing Called You by Ernest Holmes. And when I read that book, I said, okay, well, what is the script I'm running? And what am, this thing called you? And you're not a problem. You're not a bad. You're not wrong. You are divine, unique, demonstration, presentation, of whatever you want to call it, expression of God.
Mm. Mm. When you think about New York, what would you say that Brooklyn gave you?
Ah, Brooklyn gave me soul
Mm.
because Brooklyn at that time, and it may still be, I don't experience it that way now, was a land of culture. I call it the nation of Brooklyn. Whether you were in Crown Heights with the Hasidic Jewish community or Bushwick with the Latinos or, Bed-Stuy, Do or Die, Bed-Stuy or Fort Greene with the Black folk. It was just every single community had a vibe. It had an energy. It had a feel. It had smells. If you wanted
Mm.
pizza, you know where to go. If you wanted a knish or a hot dog, you knew where to go. So Brooklyn gave me soul. It gave me culture, and it really it still holds me that way. Although the landscape of Brooklyn has changed incredibly, but yeah,
That's beautiful. So I have so many friends from Brooklyn, and I think that everything you just said, they would all agree with. It's like if there's a heart to Brooklyn, there's a soul to
yeah.
Brooklyn, like you said. That's very special and unique. So I love that you said that. You've written an impressive amount of books, and so I want to know Where did your passion or call to writing start? Where did it birth from?
Never set out to write a book.
Mm,
Never. My
hmm
first book, Tapping the Power Within, was a workbook that I did for women who were in a reentry program, moving from public assistance into the work world. And Tapping the Power Within started out as the handouts that I gave them in class. And I put them all together. And years ago, before we had AI and computers and all of that, you had to go to Kinko's.
hmm
If you wanted to copy something. So I went to Kinko's to make a copy of the handouts, and a young sister there, Robin, uh, she said, "You want to put a cover on this?" And I put a cover on it, and I had my little workbook. And then one day I heard, "This is a book. This is a book." And a gentleman in the Philadelphia community where I was living at the time, he was a entrepreneur, and I don't remember how I met him or got to him. And I said, I want to publish a book. He said, "Oh, I have a publishing company." So a friend of mine drew the cover, and we took it to Donald, and he printed it. And I had a book. It was like 80 pages that I used to sell on consignment to the bookstores out of the trunk of my car. And that thing grew like wildfire. People from DC were calling me to ask me for it. And I was like, what in the world? And a woman, a publishing agent named Marie Brown, one of the first Black female uh, literary agents in the
Mm.
country in New York City. I don't know how she got the book, but when you're on purpose, miracles happen. When
Yes.
you're doing what you're supposed to do, you don't have to know it's going to happen. It happens. So she got it. She called me. She sold it to a publisher, and we printed it. And about 2 years, that was in 1988
Mm.
or 86. In 1988, she called me. She said, "Simon and Schuster wants to do a book specifically for people of color, helping them deal with stress. Would you be interested?" Okay, oh yeah, and they're gonna pay me up front. So that's where how Acts of Faith was born. And the way I midwife my books, the way I always write to the title. I don't know what the book is in the book, but they'll give me the
Me
title.
too.
I'm guided to the title, and then I write I download. I just write what they told me. Tell me. And then every single book that I've ever written has been written in longhand, 2, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning when the earth is still, and I midwife it. Yeah, I
Mm.
birth it.
Ooh. Is there one of your books that was like maybe the most difficult to birth?
Piece from Broken Pieces,
Mm.
that I wrote after my daughter died, um, because it was about my journey from her transition into a place of peace. And it was really took me 3 years to write that book. And I can write a book in 3 months.
Wow.
Um, but that was probably the most difficult book that I've ever written. And I didn't want to write it. The way I wrote it was because my brother friend Tavis Smiley told me, "Oh, you're going to write this book. Not only you going to write it, I'm going to pay for it and publish it." And he did.
It doesn't mean it's easy all the time. And some things take a little bit more time. And some things, we have to, at the same time that we're creating, we're also working through our own pain, our own struggles. But like you said, when it's the assignment on your life, when you're in alignment, you have to do it. And I'm grateful that
Yeah.
you did. I really am.
I have been guided and directed to do three things. Um, One is kind of new to me, so I've been challenged. Uh, the first one is I am going to write another book on mothering, called Mothering. I just buried my second daughter. My youngest daughter, Nisa, passed away. Um, and the good news is I knew how to do it this time.
Mm.
When I lost my first daughter, Jamia, I didn't know how to be a mother and bury a child. I didn't know how to do that. And it almost took me out of here. When Nisa passed, I knew how to do it.
Mm.
I knew how to take care of myself. I knew what I could do, what I couldn't do. I knew what to ask for. You know, when Jamia passed, I had to go to the funeral parlor. I had to go to the cemetery. I had to do that. And when Nisa passed, I called. I said, I can't do this. Come do this.
Yeah.
And I had no qualm about it as her mom that I had to do it. I knew when certain things hit me to go somewhere and lay down and not walk around acting like I was okay.
Mm.
I knew how to do it the second time. And it didn't make it easier to move through her transition, her death, but it made it easier to move through the process.
Mm.
And then it's like, okay, God, really? Really? And I remember I called Miss O because I didn't want her to read about it that's the other thing when you're Iyanla Vanzant, big in the world, people put your business out in the street.
Yeah.
Uh, and so I didn't want her to read about it online. And so I called her and I said to her, it's not going to stop me. It's not going to stop me, because one of the biggest thoughts I had to wrestle with was how you can save everybody else in the world and can't save your own child.
Mm.
And as soon as that thought came in my mind again, I said, oh, I know how to deal with you. I know what to do with you. I'm going to beat you down. Get off of me.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm not going to stop. I must be heading to do something very big, that thought would come in my mind and I'd have to wrestle with that experience again. So I was grateful for that I knew how to do it this time. I'm being guided and directed right now to work with men. I've worked with women for over 40 years. I'm done with y'all. No.
No, don't leave us, please.
But men are in a lot of trouble. And basically because they haven't done the work. And they haven't done the work because nobody took the time to teach them how to do it. I'm not talking about men's groups and fathers empowerment. I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking about soul work, because that's what I am. I am a soul technician.
Yes.
So I'm going to do work with men in 2024. And it's just been coming to me. I mean, I went to change my phone at the AT&T store the other day. And I had the man in there weeping on my shoulder. I was like, okay, I
Mm.
got you. I'm gonna do it. Leave me alone already. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing that I'm being guided to do in 2024 is awaken 1 million people. I want to call 1 million people into the highest level of consciousness available.
Wow, that's the soul work, the soul assignments
Yes.
that you're on. I wanna ask you about motherhood and um maybe the greatest lesson that motherhood has taught you over the years.
Mm. The greatest lesson motherhood has taught me is I'm not going to get it right, and it's okay.
Mm.
I had 3 kids, 3 children. All 3 of them are different, even though 2 of them were born on the same day at the same time, and they were the same weight and the same length.
Whew.
My first child, and last child, same day, same time, same weight, same length.
Wow.
Totally different people, totally different people. And my middle daughter. Um, so I didn't get it right with any of them, and it's okay.
Mm.
And when I say right, meaning I didn't give them everything they needed, I didn't learn it until after they needed it. Who they were I didn't recognize because I didn't know who I was.
Mm.
Um, I was a horrible mother. Horrible. I was a great father.
Tell me what that
I was a
means.
mothers nourish and nurture and affirm. Mothers teach.
Mm.
Mothers hold. Mothers, mm, yeah, nourish, nurture, affirm. Mothers hold. Fathers provide. Fathers protect.
Mm.
Fathers direct. I didn't guide. Mothers guide. There's a distinction. There's a distinction between guiding you. Come, let's do this. Great job. You did it. Yeah. Now you go ahead. I'm right here. You go, I'm watching you. That's guidance.
Mhm.
Direction is do this because I said it. Do it. Do it now. That's direction. I was a great director. I was a horrible guide.
Wow.
I was a great father. I didn't know that. So I want to talk in mothering about the distinction between fathering and mothering because
Mm.
many mothers are fathers.
Miss Iyanla, that is profound. There is a
Well, I learned it.
distinction.
It cost me two of my children. It cost me two of my children to learn that I wasn't mothered, so I didn't know how to mother. And there's a very divine, profound template to mothering. And so many mothers are caught up paying the rent, buying the food, running to the job until they're great fathers. They're not mothers.
Yeah.
They're not. And we have so much information. One of the greatest things I wish I had known when my children were growing up was their love language. Of course, he didn't write anything about love languages until the 80s. And my kids were all born in the 70s. And, what I know now is that my son's love language is words of affirmation. I did not affirm my son. I directed him. I criticized him. I didn't affirm him. And he still today has challenges and issues with his value and worth and getting stuff done. My youngest daughter, who just passed, her love language was affection and touch. Well, I didn't do it. I didn't know how to do it. It wasn't, I don't have time. I don't have time for that. I'm trying to cook, clean, do the laundry. Blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
And so she left her this life believing that I didn't love her because I didn't love her in the way she could receive it. Now, my middle daughter, her love language was quality time. Now, as a mother, because I was neurotic, I took my kids everywhere. No, they didn't spend the night out. They didn't do play dates. Because I had been sexually abused and violated as a child. That was not going to happen to my kids.
Mm-hmm.
So I took them everywhere. So while my youngest son went with me and I didn't affirm him, he was miserable. My youngest daughter went with me and I didn't hug her. She was miserable. My middle daughter was happy as a pig in slop.
Because she got to go everywhere.
That's all she needed. I didn't have to buy her no gift. I didn't have to say no to her. Quality time. She was with me and we were like this. We were like this.
Wow.
Yeah. But I didn't know. Now I know, and I think in this day and age, it's important for every single mother to know her child's love language.
Yeah. Yeah. And also I want to add, I think it's important for children, and this is something that I'm learning now, to learn about our mothers and our fathers as much as they'll give,
Absolutely.
right? Because it informs who they are. And we can give the grace that you deserve. Truly, it's not to say it. I really believe that it goes both ways. I'm asking my parents difficult questions because I want to understand them so that I can understand us and the dynamic
Yeah.
we have and how we can adjust and improve. And, you know, and I know their love languages just like they know mine, but we have to ask difficult questions and give our parents the time and the space to find the words. The words aren't
Yeah.
always readily available.
And remember, they're coming from another generation. So they're
Yes.
coming from another generation, depending upon how old you were.
Yes.
You know, I could never ask my grandmother some of the questions that my grandchildren asked me. Like
Yeah.
when I was telling my children about my days of smoking happy flowers, they were horrified. You smoke weed? Yeah, I did. You know,
Yeah.
and I tell every woman when she crosses 21, learn your mother's story. What
Mm,
is your mother's story? Because that will inform you of your future, number one. And what's your father's story? Not because he's your father, your daddy, or your dad. What was his story when you were still a tadpole in his spine? Learn his story. Learn his relationship with his mother, his relationship with his father. Learn those things so that you understand you're not just dealing with your mother or your father. You're dealing with human beings who have stories and experiences and memories and challenges and issues. Yeah. So once
hmm
you turn 22, you gotta learn your mother's story.
Yeah. I'm doing it now. I'm still asking questions and
Yeah.
it's been beautiful. It's been difficult, but it's been beautiful. And I'm so grateful for the time. I'm grateful for the
Yeah.
time that I get to ask my
Yeah.
parents these questions still and that they're willing to try to
And what
find
I
the
would say,
answers.
and what I would say to parents,
Mm,
who may be listening, tell your children their story. Tell them about your fears. Tell them about your bad behavior. Tell them about your victories. Because sometimes we've set it up so that the children don't know, even when they're adults, they don't know how to speak to us. And, we make it,
mm,
you can't ask me that. So parents need to be able to share their stories too,
yeah.
um, and hopefully they can hear it. So I want to do that in mothering. I want to give a different concept to mothering because it means more than having a baby.
Mm.
It's a major, major undertaking.
I can't wait for this book. And
Yeah.
I know it'll be right on time. It's as soon as you said it, I was like, oh, this is the book we need. This is it. And guess what?
Yeah.
This book will also help the men that you're called to help.
Oh,
You know,
absolutely.
like,
Because they
yeah.
understand how they were mothered, and I tell women very often, you're making your son your emotional husband. Don't do that. Don't make him
Mm,
responsible to make you happy, to make you proud, keep you proud. I did some work many years ago with the NBA and yeah, the NBA and parents of the young men who were going into the NBA said, he's 20. He don't need to be buying you a house. Let
mm,
him be 20. Live where you living right now, you know, because when they make it out, all of those responsibilities go on them. Buy your mama a house, buy your daddy a car, but no, no. Mm-mm.
yeah.
So,
You still have to live your life.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, can you tell me the difference between healing work and growth work?
Okay. Growth work means that you're doing certain things, you're being a certain way, you're living a certain way, and you want to change what you do and how you do it. So you're saving money when you want more, or you're doing your business and you want to do it differently, you want to increase it or whatever. So growth work helps you change what you do and how you do it. Healing work changes who you are.
Mm,
Healing work is about getting into the consciousness, how you think about what you think about, what memories are still in there, what echoes are playing out in your life. Healing work is about really eliminating the ancestral trauma shadows because many of us have them. We have ancestral, genetic, generational uh, trauma shadows. And we need to heal those up, but we don't even recognize what they are. So
mm,
healing work is about changing who you are, how you think, how you see yourself, how you be yourself in the world, how you stand for yourself within yourself. And growth work is about changing how you do what you do.
That's good. That's good. Miss Iyanla, what has been your takeaway from our conversation today?
My takeaway is remember when I said that I had been playing small, my takeaway is, I'm getting bigger, mothering, awakening 1 million, lifting men up. That's big work. That's really,
Yeah.
really big work. And so to hear myself say it and out loud, it's like, okay, you gonna do that? No.
I love that. My takeaway is that, God will put your heroes in front of you to remind you of who you are and what you're capable of doing. And, proximity to greatness means something. And
Yeah.
I feel that so deeply in my conversation with you. And I feel better. I feel bigger. I feel stronger. And I feel that everything that you told me today was exactly what I needed to hear and what our audience needs to hear. And I'm so grateful. I'm truly, truly grateful. But my proximity to you will always stay with me. Truly.
One of my teachers told me many, many years ago when I started doing my work publicly, he said to me, a master is not one with many students. A master is one who creates many masters. So if you want them to be masters, they've got to, if you want them to be masterpieces, they've got to imitate the master. So always be mindful of how you show up because you're creating masterpieces.
Yes.
So that's good.
Yeah, it's good. Thank you so much, Miss Iyanla. I love and adore you and I honor you. And I'm so excited for what you have to come. And I will be there, front row and center, supporting you always.
Thank you. Thank you. Good. Thank you for having me and good luck with the podcast. May it grow and grow and grow and bring your beauty and gifts into the planet.
I received that. Thank you so much, Miss Iyanla. Thank you for listening. This podcast is produced by LWC Studios for OWN. The show's executive producer is Juleka Lantigua. Our managing producer is Fatima El-Swifi. Shanice Tyndall is our lead producer. Associate producer is Mona Hassan. Jordan Thompson is our marketing coordinator. This episode was mixed by Trin Lightburn. Michelle Baker is our video editor. If you enjoyed listening to this episode, and we hope you did, please make sure to subscribe, leave a rating, and review wherever you listen to your podcast to ensure you hear the next one.